Hi, my name is Alish Irvine and I'm here today to talk to you about social enterprise and social entrepreneurship. Steve Jobs has a quote that says, "The ones who are crazy enough to think that they can change the world usually do." And that is, in my experience, how social entrepreneurs get started. They usually start with the crazy idea or a belief that they need to be brave and take a step to create change. So what is a social enterprise? I first heard the term in 2009 and it was relatively new at that stage. Now it's becoming a more common term in people's everyday speak. They hear of it, but they're often not sure what it actually is. So a social enterprise is an enterprise whose objective is to achieve a social, societal or environmental impact rather than maximizing profit for owners or shareholders. So another way of saying that is a social entrepreneur is really somebody with a social heart and a business head. It's not to say that you don't need business skills, you very much do. So today I'm going to take you through how Ireland is set up to support social entrepreneurs. We have a national social enterprise policy for Ireland. Now that was drawn up in 2019 to 2022. And really it was setting out a list of guidelines for enterprises in Ireland and how the government could support them in their growth. The pillars of that policy are really helping people to build awareness around social enterprise, helping social enterprises to grow and to strengthen and support them and ensure that there's better policy alignment. One of the measures in that programme was to ensure that social entrepreneurs got funded to create awareness campaigns so that the public had a greater idea of the kind of work that they do and how they can be supported at government level. Today we'll explore how you get started with social enterprise, once you've gotten started, how you can scale up, and lastly, the most important point to know is how you can collaborate with others once you have started up and are ready to scale, because building relationships and networking is probably one of the most valuable assets that you will have, or one of the most valuable tools to help build your enterprise. Starting out, no social entrepreneur ever knows that they're a social entrepreneur. They rarely put themselves into that category. They're usually somebody who's experienced some kind of setback in life or some kind of problem. They can also try to solve that problem by looking at government supports that are out there, and mostly they find that they don't exist. Traditionally, when people encounter problems in accessing support, they complain and they blame the system and they give out about how the government could be doing more. A typical social entrepreneur doesn't think that way. They think that they can create a new system, build a better system and find a solution. And unfortunately, most of the social entrepreneurs that I've met over the years have created something out of a need to solve their own problem. When we talk about product market fit, if you can find a solution to a problem that you're experiencing in society, traditional business would call it a product market fit. But I think it's important that you remember why you are creating what you're creating. The why is really, really important. So in exploring that a little bit further, we look at some of the social enterprises that have been set up in Ireland. Men's Shed organisation, Food Cloud, GIY Ireland. Each of them had a why or a problem that they were trying to solve. Men's Shed was set up to combat social isolation in men and to improve their mental health. Food Cloud was set up to alleviate food poverty and to eliminate food wastage. GIY Ireland was set up to educate and equip people with the tools and knowledge to help them to grow their own. So GIY Ireland is Grow It Yourself Ireland, and there are branches throughout the country. But as well as that, we have what I think is almost a hidden aspect of social enterprise. It's the community service programme sector. So when I say CSP are community funded projects that are in every town or most towns in Ireland, and they're government funded, yet a lot of people don't even know the term. The why, as I said, is really, really important. Why do you feel compelled to take action? Why do you feel that you have the necessary skills to take action? You really need to care about the problem that you're trying to solve, because on the difficult days you're going to need that resilience, and you're going to need the why in order to sustain yourself and keep going. So are you angry enough to take action? People often say to me that they're really frustrated with something that they're trying to solve, and they're really angry. And to be honest, a sense of injustice is something that you need in order to feel compelled to take action. So I said at the start of the session that you need to be a little bit crazy to think you can change the world. You also need to be a little bit angry. Not too crazy and not too angry. A healthy mix of both. Traditionally, an entrepreneur setting out can take two paths. One is to dive in without knowing any of the answers and just set up. The other case can be where people who are completely equipped with the skills aren't ready to take action because they feel like they need to know way more than they do. They feel they need to have knowledge about finance, marketing, governance, charity regulation. They feel they need to know about managing people, they need to know where to access funding, and all of these factors tend to scare people off. But if you ask any of the successful social entrepreneurs now, they'll tell you that they took action and they learned along the way. They equipped themselves with the knowledge that they needed en route. Sometimes people remain stuck and they have a wonderful idea and they say, well, I will do it when I'm ready and I have done A, B, C, D. Most entrepreneurs just start even when they don't know all the answers. You can also feel like you need to be much bigger, you need to be much better. You feel that somebody else out there knows way more than you do. So if you're listening to this today and you feel like that, everybody feels like that starting out. Change happens in Ireland by ordinary people taking action. They all question their right to take action. Now, when we talk about accessing funding to get an idea off the ground, I have felt over the years that I've often been a translator for people with ideas for a business or a charity and a funding organisation. They speak two different languages. The person creating change cares about society, they're passionate about change. They don't think necessarily logically and business-minded like a funder does. So a funder speaks in numbers. They want evidence, they want facts, they want statistics. They want to show that there's evidence as to why a problem exists. They also want to know that when they invest in a project, that they have enough evidence to suggest that the intervention that they're offering or the funding that they're offering has gone to the right project. So they want to be able to measure it at the end of the project. So the key points to take away from that, to speak a funder's language: evidence, statistics, facts, and measurable objectives. I often watched Dragon's Den growing up and was completely intimidated by, have you got the numbers for the year 2042? Does your turnover reach this? I felt like the jargon was enough to scare anybody off. The reality is I've pitched many times over the years and nobody has ever asked me any of the Dragon's Den terminology. So don't get put off by pitching or having to know all of the numbers. Once you get started, that will make sense in time. But that said, the numbers are still really important. I've often worked with people and they've said to me, but I only have one customer. And I say that's key. Start out with the market of one. You're not looking for global domination. But once you find one customer, you know what product you're providing for them, you know what the pricing structure is, and you know how you're going to get paid. After that, the numbers get easier. You know how to grow and you know how to scale. But also be realistic about the numbers. Funders like people who are honest, and don't try and inflate numbers or pretend that you're bigger than you are. Have a very realistic concept about how big your market size is. Another thing that's really important to know is who's already doing what you are doing. And what is your unique selling point or your USP? What are you doing differently to everybody else that's out in the market? And traditionally, social entrepreneurs are providing services that are more affordable for disadvantaged communities than traditional business models. That said, people can get tempted in the beginning to say, oh, there's nobody like me out there. There's nobody doing what I'm doing. I have no competition. There is competition. There is always competition. So just be honest about that and try and differentiate what you're doing from the competition. Having particular personality traits is really important. If you're filling out a funding application, you'll be asked for evidence of situations in the past where you might have had a setback. How resilient you were in that situation is really key to how adaptable you'll be in the future if you encounter setbacks. So telling people you've never had any setbacks, you've never failed, you've never had a bad day isn't a good thing. People love to hear the warts and all stories. They love to hear about the failures and they love to see what you did in the face of failure. How did you pick yourself up again and how did you move on? So be honest about the failures. When I talk to social enterprises about the importance of having an online presence, they usually have a good row with me. They tell me that they don't have the budget, they don't have the tech skills, and it's not really important anyways, and really doing the day job is the important thing. And I cannot emphasize enough the importance of an online presence and your marketing in terms of telling your story. If a funder is sitting in an office in Dublin and you're on the Aran Islands or you're in Kilfenora, the only way they have of learning about your project is by looking you up online. So I know the budgets are tight, I know you may have limited tech skills, but please do take it seriously and create an online presence. Otherwise, people will never know your story. Another challenge as well in working with charities is that they rarely want to blow their own trumpet or tell their success stories. They're too modest and they're too kind, and they feel like all Irish people that they'd have notions if they started showing off expertise. Please park that, show the expertise and show the great work that you're doing. It's really about the people you're helping and not about you. I mentioned already, fail often, learn as you go, and it's really, really going to help you in the long run. Now, money is a terrible word when it comes to talking to social entrepreneurs. They think you're a heartless, capitalist, terrible person if you mention money. It's a really difficult conversation. Nobody wants to listen to you. And when I go into an organization and I talk about the terrible word profit, or overheads, or electricity bills, insurance, all the costs that are required, they say, but it's not about the money. And I want to emphasize, it's not about the money, it's about the mission. But the money is so important and you really need to pay attention to the figures. Otherwise, you won't have a sustainable business. And the people you're trying to help, the beneficiaries, are the one who are going to lose out. So take it seriously, price competitively. You don't need to undercharge for your services. Value your services and the solutions that you're bringing to the public and charge in order to stay open. Once you have found a proven product market fit, you're ready to scale. And this can be sometimes where entrepreneurs wonder, do they have the resources to make the next leap? How do they go from the Aran Islands to branching out into Dublin or even overseas. And the good news is there are tons of really kind, generous people in the social enterprise sector that have already made the leap, and they're happy to help people to scale. So when you say what makes the difference, people make the difference. Generous people who share their knowledge, their networks and their expertise make the difference. When you have found a solution to a problem, you have to ask yourself, could this solution be workable in any other town in Ireland or even globally? And again, we go back to the examples of Men's Shed, GIY or Food Cloud. All of the issues and the problems that they're solving could be solved in a small town or a big city. So think like that when you're coming up with solutions. Some people have done the work already. There's a wonderful platform called ChangeX. And instead of keeping their knowledge to themselves, ChangeX have a platform to provide people with solutions for community problems. And one of the best examples of this is Grow Remote. Grow Remote initially was a number of people in a WhatsApp group who just wanted to promote working remotely in rural Ireland, to try and encourage people to live in small towns and repopulate our small towns. They used ChangeX as a platform to get the message out of what they were trying to do and to grow their numbers. So looking at that platform, you'll find a number of solutions for society's problems, and you'll get a toolkit on how you can set one up in your own community. They're really generous with the knowledge, and it's just a great online networking platform as well. There are a number of excellent organisations in Ireland already providing support around funding and business skills and helping people to grow their network and share knowledge. Some of those are Rethink Ireland, Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, Social Impact Ireland and Enterprise Ireland. There's also the Western Development Commission, or the WDC. They manage the Connected Hubs project, and it's a really wonderful example of how a network of communities are pooling together all over Ireland to share knowledge and expertise, all with one goal in mind: to keep our communities vibrant and alive and to offer work opportunities for people in their own community. As well as that, there are other organisations like the Irish Social Enterprise Network. They have a toolkit to help people to get the skills that they need when they're starting out. That can be information on tax implications, registering a company, compliance, obligations, or just simple business advice to keep people encouraged and motivated. A question I get asked a lot over the years is, how do you reach out to absolute strangers when you're trying to build a business or a network? And my advice would be yourself and be really down to earth and authentic. The social enterprise sector in Ireland is so small that just even using the word social enterprise in an email will be enough to open the door. But appreciate that whoever you're reaching out to is probably very busy and they will help you, but don't take it for granted that you just pick up the phone and they're going to be there for you. Appreciate their time. Don't ask for help. Use the word advice. So a simple email or a text is, would you mind if I asked your advice on social enterprise, is probably a much more successful way to reach out to people. It's awkward asking people to be your friend and to help you, but as soon as you get over that and you get in touch with people and tell them what you're trying to achieve, they are really generous and helpful. Don't think about yourself, think about the beneficiary. Park your ego for 5 minutes. If you find yourself in a situation like this one where you don't want to get up in front of camera, you don't want to reach out to people, or you find that you're a little bit outside your comfort zone, try and think about the person at the end of the day who's at home and needs your advice or needs your help. Park the ego, just reach out. Remember that whatever it is that you're doing needs to be measured. And so what I mean by that is, I said earlier, a funder needs to be able to work out if there has been an impact in the work that you've done. Investing in prevention is much more beneficial than cure. So if you have figures to back up that what you're doing is going to solve a problem before it even starts, it's really, really key. Remember, lastly, that being brave isn't the absence of fear. Being brave is having that fear, but finding a way through it anyways. So if you feel at any point like you're outside your comfort zone, you're doing something where you don't know all the answers, you don't feel equipped to do it, or you're driving along in your car and you think, what am I doing? That's exactly the feeling that you have when you're about to do something really important. So listen to the fear and know that being brave is all part of it. And know that it's ordinary people every day making change in Ireland. So get out there with your good idea and start something up in your own community. Thank you.